All right, well, hello and welcome. I'm the Kodiak Broncos Podcast, and before I get started, I just want to say a couple things. First of all, new hat. If you've ever watched my friend David Talks Broncos, you'll know that he wears his foam head when he's really excited about something when it comes to the Denver Broncos, and I'm really excited to talk about how the Broncos potentially have two rookies of the year in Jahdae Barron and RJ Harvey. And very rarely do I drink this much blue and orange Kool-Aid, and we're going to talk about this, and whatever. But before I get into it, I just want to say, leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're not already. You always wait till the end. Hopefully, I've earned it. And yeah, we have no time to waste because this one I think is going to be really exciting for a lot of people. So, thinking back to the teams that have done this, Sean Paton's teams was one of these to accomplish this feat. Back in 2017, they were the their first team since 1967 to have this done. Obviously, getting done with Alvin Kamara and Marshawn Lattimore, but this has become kind of not uncommon, especially because the 2023 Texans did this with C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson, and the Jets did this in 2022 with Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner. Now, if there is one caveat, you'll see that Stroud and Will Anderson were both top 3 picks in the same draft, and the Jets picked Garrett Wilson at number 10 overall and Sauce Gardner at number 4 overall. So there is, some kind of draft capital expectancy there. But when I think about RJ Harvey and Jahdae Barron, I think they have as good of odds to win this award or to accomplish this feat as anybody else does, in the NFL this year. And there are a lot of good names that both guys are going up against, like, the DROY pool in particular. That one's pretty loaded. But here's why I think that they will both win Offensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year. And I think that they will be the 5th team in NFL history to have both. So, just talking awards in general, I mean, does it really matter? No, I don't think so. Like, listen, I don't get hung up on awards. Even in the middle of this year, when people were debating Knicks and Daniels, like, I was like, who cares? Like, I know that it's fun to talk about it. I know it's something that's fun to cheer for as fans, but I don't really get hung up on awards. Now, if I'm just looking at this from a perspective of, okay, do the Broncos have two guys in Jahdae Barron and RJ Harvey who have what it takes to impress the voters enough to the point where they can win these awards? I'm like, yes, absolutely. But let's not kid ourselves into thinking AP voters are doing deep dives when they're voting. They really only care about MVP, and that's kind of it. Like, they're not watching film about like all these all pros that they vote for. Name recognition is a big thing when it comes to Offensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year. Same with playing well in primetime games. We'll get to that. But, when I think about the awards and the criteria, it weighs heavily towards the quarterbacks. And in RJ Harvey's case, it's not really that big of a deal for me because I don't think the Titans are that competitive or going to be that competitive this year. I don't see them making a run in an uber crowded AFC. And the nice thing, I guess, about Rookie of the Year is that there's no fatigue amongst voters. It felt like the Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson thing this year got a little political. Like, okay, Lamar Jackson has won it X amount of times. We should give it to Allen this year just because. And I don't really have a strong opinion on who the MVP was this year. But, I mean, when you get into that level of politicalization, it's the same thing with Hall of Fame voting, like particularly in the MLB. It's actually a huge problem. But with Rookie of the Year, there's no fatigue. Like, there's almost no fatigue amongst voters. And yes, while name recognition and draft capital will give a guy a leg up, as far as what our expectancy is, overall, I feel like that's voted on a lot more fairly than the other awards. And those are really wonky criteria. Like, they don't always go to the best players either. But let's just talk about this. Let's just talk about this real quick. And we're going to begin with our Offensive Rookie of the Year, RJ Harvey. So here are the other leading candidates for this award, at least right now. We're going to talk about Ashton Genty, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, and Omarion Hampton. And RJ Harvey is plus 2,000. I believe that's 7th or 8th in odds right now. But I think that if you're going to bet on one or two of these guys, I think that your bet should be on RJ Harvey above all else. So here's why. This award favors the quarterback, and Ward is the only bona fide day one starter who's going to be given a chance to, succeed right out of the gate and make a real push for this award. Like, and he's still in an A situation. Like, I think the weapons are mediocre at best. I don't really like their offensive line. I think the run game's fine, but Pollard and Spears can only take you so far when you're relying on them as your weapons for your offense. But Tyler Shaw, I don't see him really getting a chance in New Orleans to win this award because I feel like that offense is just too messy. That team is just too messy in general, and I don't think they're going to make much noise in 2025. They could be on the up and up with Kellen Moore, but I just don't see it happening. And Jackson Dart, I don't think he's going to come into the NFL until like probably midway through the year at very earliest, especially because Dable and Shane, they know that if they start 0-7, 0-8, they are both fired. So they're going to go with the guys like Jameis, the guys like Russ, whoever they think gives them the best chance to win. And to be completely honest, I think that that's, one thing that is really not talked about in that regard as well. But this award is a running backs for the taking. Okay, usually you're competing up against quarterbacks who are drafted really high. Usually you're competing against wide receivers who are drafted really high as well, especially because wide receiver talent has gotten absurd coming into the draft over the past 5 or 6 years or whatever. But there's none of those. Like, there's no mega cracked rookies that you're competing with this upcoming year. So the criteria for running backs, I did a little deep dive, is 1,300 plus scrimmage yards, 10 plus touchdowns, and 60 plus receptions. And if RJ Harvey's involvement in playmaking is what we think will be and what we're projecting and what we're expecting out of the Denver Broncos offense in 2025, this criteria is going to be really hard for him to miss. Like, I think he's going to get so many touches and have so many opportunities to make plays with the ball in his hands. And I think that he will do really, really well with set opportunities as well. So here's what I'm projecting for Harvey's impact day one. So he will not be our power specialist, and that is going to take him off the field on some downs. But I imagine at worst he gets a 55% snap share starting week one. It's important to note that Alvin Kamara's snap share in 2017 was 40%. After week 5 that year, it transitioned into more of a 50-50 split. But Kamara also did get hurt in a game or two. So it was more tilted towards Mark Ingram. And Mark Ingram was still there. Mark Ingram was still earning his touches as well. So Kamara did not come into the backfield in New Orleans in 2017 as the sole guy to earn touches there. If Estime does not improve, and this is a huge question mark for the Denver Broncos offense in general, like they're putting a lot of eggs into the Audric Estime basket. And if he doesn't improve, I don't think Jaleel is going to be the one to get touches. I think it's just all going to go straight to Harvey. And, Alvin Kamara got 12.6 touches a game in 2017, and that was with him, not being a real feature back for the first month of the year. And I think I did a deep dive, and Reggie Bush got like 15 touches a game or so in 2006. So I think Harvey is basically a lock for 15 touches a game, especially if this room is as lackluster as it was last year. But the thing you need to note is that for him to go ham in like fantasy and for him to truly show what he's capable of as far as, the voters and impressing them, he's going to catch a ton of passes. So Javonte caught 51 passes last year, and he was not commanding targets. Like, he literally caught 51 balls because he just happened to be the short yardage check down option. He was just a reliable guy who you knew if you threw the ball to, he wasn't going to drop it. But did he do anything dynamic in the receiving game? No, absolutely. Like, he wasn't running all these fancy routes. He wasn't making all these insane plays. He was just there, and he was a dump-off option. And the play basically died whenever he got hit by a defender. But listen, Sean Paton does not have a single year since 2013 outside of the top 5 in running back in percentage of running back target share. You read that right. Sean Paton has never finished outside the top 5 since 2013 in percentage of throwing to his running backs. So Sean Paton, he likes to have his running back be almost the second target earner in any given offense. So when you look at RJ Harvey, he is basically set up in a pristine spot to absolutely take over the NFL. He had the most carries of 15 yards in 2023 and 2024 combined in college football, and now he's running behind the best run block offensive line in the NFL, or at least best run blocking win rate offensive line in the NFL. And were we the best run blocking line in the NFL last year? No, not even close. But we were 11th in rushing success rate and pretty much second to last, I think, in rushing EPA. So that shows you how bad our running backs truly were last year. And you give all those to RJ Harvey, who can actually be a playmaker, actually give you some juice, absolutely hit a home run. If you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. That's what I'm expecting for RJ Harvey. And if you're just looking at the offensive rookie of the year pool, I mean, the Travis Hunter grenade is one to keep an eye on. I think if he has a really good year on the defensive side of the ball, but the offense doesn't really click instantly, even then, I think the voters are still going to be like, all right, well, he was playing both sides. And that's not me to say that they did that during the Heisman race or whatever, but I'm saying that that is just something to keep an eye on. And, it's something that could throw a wrench into this whole thing as well. But listen, there's not a ton of competition. Like, I know that I talked about how insane wide receiver prospects have gotten in the past 5 years. Like, in 2020, we started to have CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. 21, we had Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. 2022, we had Drake London and Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and a bunch of really, really good dudes. This past year, we had Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze. And Ted McMillan was drafted 8th overall in 2025 this past year. And I don't think he's even close to as good as any of those guys were as prospects. I prefer Odunze over him, who went one pick later last year. I prefer London as a prospect in 2022 to Ted McMillan. And I don't know, Carolina's just not really something that I'm really keeping my eye on as far as supporting a guy who's going to be in an award race. But thinking about Ashton Jeanty, the Raiders had the run blocking offensive line was the second worst in the NFL in yards before contact. Now, I know that Ashton Jeanty, after contact, had pretty much the most rushing yards in the NCAA this past year, and that was literally just if you took his after contact sort of things. But, when you're playing against NFL defenders, it's going to be way different. I'm not here to say that he's a Mountain West merchant or anything like that. But, when you think about the fact that they still don't really have a good run blocking line, it's just really hard for me to see that guy taking over the NFL, at least in year one. I know they have Bowers. I know they have Geno. I know they have Chip Kelly, who, make all the jokes you want about how he ran the Eagles. Like, I think that they are building something nice there in Vegas, but I don't see it happening for Jeanty, at least as far as offensive rookie of the year. Like, I don't think the Titans are even close to the third best team in their division, at least not yet. Even if all goes right for them, I still don't think they're better than Jacksonville. I still don't think they're better than Houston. So I don't expect them to make the playoffs or come anywhere near it. Now, if he drags them to like maybe one game away, we'll talk about it. But I don't see Ward winning. And Omarion Hampton, I could see him being really, really, really good. And I think he will be really good, especially with the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh football, they like to run over everyone and everything. But this is likely a split backfield, at least early on. And even if I think Omarion Hampton is really going to ramp up his touches and his workload in the second half of the year, I think it'll be too little too late. And I think Harvey will just get more stats to make that happen. But this leaves RJ Harvey in a thin running back room with a lot of questions still, with a coach who loves using RBs as a weapon. And, when you get a coach that likes to throw to the running back as much as Sean Paton does, and you get a guy who can, make any defender miss and just take one to the house on any play, it creates a match made in heaven for racking up stats. So time to talk about Jahdae Barron. So here are the other leading candidates for this. Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, again, he's actually higher to win Defensive Rookie of the Year odds than he is Offensive Rookie of the Year. Jalen Walker, Mason Graham. So this award, historically, it favors edge rushers, and that's no surprise. That shouldn't be a surprise to anyone because sack totals, they're easy to quantify. Their impact stands out more. Their highlights are more distinct. If an edge rusher racks up 10 or 11 sacks, it's entirely possible for that to be the case and still not have a good year. Look at Kayvon Thibodeau 2 years ago. But listen, the tough thing for defensive backs when it comes to winning these awards is that playing defense, it doesn't always show up on the box score. Like I said, stats are quantifiable, but being able to cover your assignment, what does that do? What does that show up in the box score at? Maybe a PBU, maybe an interception, but those are still very few and far between, even for the best defensive backs. And so the criteria for defensive backs to win the award is 4 interceptions, 1 or 2 touchdowns, low passer rating allowed, and playing well in key games and moments. And if the Broncos defense is as good as we think it will be, voters could also use that as an excuse to not vote for Barron. Let's say, for example, the Giants defense is absolutely horrible again, and then, it's between Jahdae Barron and Abdul Carter. I could see the arguments now. Well, he's playing next to Surtain, Riley Moss, Hufanga, Greenlaw, Benito, Allen, whatever. And, make that of what you will. That is something that voters do consider and could quantify in that argument. So here's Barron's impact day one. So he's supposed to be a plug-and-play guy on our loaded defense who will see starter-level snaps from day one. They won't all be from the nickel. I still think Jaquan McMillan is going to get quite a few snaps. But, wherever he needs to be deployed, I think Jahdae Barron is going to get a lot of snaps. And I think he will be a mainstay on this defense. And he will be a starter, even if he's not, taking the most snaps at a certain position. But if he plays everywhere each game, it'll be a huge talking point. Think about Derwin James' rookie year. Think about Kyle Hamilton's rookie year. All we heard about, if you guys remember, was, wow, look where these guys can play. Look where they're deployed. It's so cool. And, when we get rookies like that, it's pretty cool to think about. And even if that chatter dies relatively quick, which I don't think a lot of people talk about Derwin or Hamilton's versatility that much anymore, then I don't know. That's just one thing to consider. People are going to see oh, Jahdae Barron played everywhere year one. And even if, that remains true years 2, 3, and 4, I feel like it's more cool when rookies do it. And the Broncos defense, it should be nasty enough to rack up whatever's needed, especially against bottom feeders. I think we're going to get a lot of picks. I think we're going to get a lot of forced fumbles. I think we're going to get a lot of touchdowns for our defensive unit. And it just matters if Jahdae Barron can make the most of those opportunities when they are given to him. And Matt Miller and Jordan Reed also have picked him to win. I actually didn't know who these guys were, but apparently they write for ESPN and they talk on ESPN. So he's already getting some mainstream media hype as well. And the key here is playing well in primetime games. When we are exposed to Jahdae Barron, how well does he play? And if he shows out versus the Bengals on Monday Night Football, the Cowboys, which will have a lot of eyes on it, Pickens, CD against our secondary, the Commanders, Sunday Night Football late in the year against Jaden Daniels, the Chiefs, Thursday Night Football could be for mega playoff implications on Christmas. Then I think that basically will be the key here for Jahdae Barron winning the award. Now, here's the Defensive Rookie of the Year pool. The Travis Hunter grenade, once again, something to keep an eye on if he's really good on the offensive side of the ball but struggles on defense, which the Jaguars have said that he will focus on offense to begin his career. Then ultimately, that could be something to keep an eye on here. Like, even if he's not good on defense, I already talked about this. They could just see what he did on offense. They could just be like, all right, well, he played enough on defense and well enough to where we can give him the award on both sides. But listen, there were so many good defensive linemen and edge rushers this past year who were drafted high, and it won't take that much for them to win. Like Carter, Michael Williams, Jalen Walker, Mike Green, they probably only need 10 sacks each, and it's wraps. But Malachi Starks is the only other guy who's a defensive back that's on par with the same odds as Jahdae Barron. And listen, only 4 defensive backs have won this award since 1998. Charles Woodson, Marcus Peters, Marshawn Lattimore, and Sauce Gardner as well. So Barron, he will need to have an absurd year to win, but it's doable. That's the thing. That's what I'm trying to tell you, is that it's very doable, all things else considered as well. So I think he can do this. I think, you give him coaching by Jim Leonard and Vance Joseph. You give him a secondary as loaded and a defensive ecosystem that's as loaded as it is. I think he can make it happen. I think we can make it work as well. So here are my final thoughts. So I think Harvey is a better bet if you're going to bet on one of these guys, as I mentioned earlier, but don't make me say I told you so. Like, if this happens, come back to this video. Awards, they're not really something that we should take seriously. Like, a good player is going to win both these awards, even if it's not one of our guys. So, whatever. But it's just fun to talk about. And I see all the signs pointing to these guys having really, really good years that could satisfy voters on both sides of the ball. And if you do want to place a parlay, like, this could be a little something extra to root for as a Broncos fan. You bleed blue and orange, you're drinking that blue and orange Kool-Aid like I am this offseason. Your odds, if you place a parlay on Jahdae Barron to win Defensive Rookie of the Year and RJ Harvey to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, are plus 48,000. So if you bet 50 on this, you win 24,000. And honestly, that's not, like, $50 isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things. So if you want a fun bet, boom, have at it. But either way, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.